Good morning, thriving warriors and those who wish they were. Alexa, what is the date?
Today is Thursday, June 30th.
Okay, great. Alexa, what time is it? Alexa, what time is it?
The time is 6:05 a.m.
Great.
Have a good morning, Edward.
Thank you. And Alexa, what is the weather forecast for today?
Currently, in Pahrump, it's 84 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly sunny skies. Today, you can expect lots of sun with a high of 101 degrees and a low of 77 degrees.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. All right. Well, today is a big day. This is the last day of June, and that means people need to be clear regarding payment. Their payments. If you have not paid for June or made arrangements to pay for June, you cannot expect to be here. Now, the people this applies to are probably also the ones who are not watching the video. And so they're going to use that as the excuse when Jeff comes knocking or Greg comes knocking of how come nobody told me? Well, you know, you're supposed to be watching these videos. We tell you every day. So this is June 30th, the last day of June. If you have not made your payment for July, don't expect to be here in July. If you have not made arrangements for July, do not expect to be here in July. Salvation Army wants the remaining Van Patten units. So I'm really talking to the Van Patten guys because the Coreys, the Matts, the Christophers who are in Maryland, they pay. They've made arrangements to pay. We don't worry about them. Beau and fiance, they pay. We're not really worried about them. The guys down in Sherwood who pay, we're not really worried about them. The guys in the other places that pay, we're not worried about them. It's the people in Van Patten, and not so much the guys in Van Patten Fork, but the other Van Patten people. Again, don't watch the video, don't know what's going on, and think that this is a housing program, which it is not. So, last day. Status quo. So our career services discussion today is about the status quo, And let's just check our Google dictionary here. Status quo, the existing state of affairs, especially regarding social or political issues. Status quo, the way things are. Where do you stand in terms of the status quo? We have always stood against the status quo. We have always stood for the proposition that the status quo is the problem. It is not the solution. The status quo is the problem. And because of that, we look at solving the problems in a different way. How do the people who are part of the status quo feel about people who are challenging the status quo? Not good, generally. Very rarely. Until the battle is about to be lost, they're usually doing everything they can to fight those who want to change the status quo. They don't give a damn about the result. They don't give a damn about anything other than the process, the status quo. And they'll say things like, don't fix it if it ain't broke. Well, last night I had the good fortune of going to an event at the Mob Museum that was about life after incarceration. This was part 3 in the 3-part series. I don't know about the other 2 parts, but I went with Senator Kerry Buck. A.W. Scally from High Desert was We hoped he was going to go. He wasn't able to make it. Which is probably a good thing because he is part of the status quo. And that's the people who run the status quo. They don't like people like us who want to change the status quo. So Scally really can't afford to be seen as appearing. Let me say it this way. Scally cannot afford to appear to be on the side of changing the status quo. And I would say I have a friendly, personal relationship with Scally, personal respect, friendship. It's not about the status quo per se. Status quo, where do you stand on the side regarding the status quo, the way things are? So if we look at your life, if we look at our lives, are we trying to change the status quo, the way things are? Or are we kind of just going along with the way things are? Stage 2 tribe, my life sucks. Am I doing anything to change it? Or am I complaining? Or am I trying to make the best of it? So every morning I'm listening to these audio motivational things, and they're all pretty much the same.
Go out there and start fucking walking. Put your shoes on, start running. Go to the gym. Get a elliptical trainer. It's not rocket science. A lot of folks talk about overtraining. You gotta train first before you get overtrained.
You want to get better? Stop looking for a shortcut and go find your alarm clock. Find your discipline. And find your guts and your passion and your drive and find your will. Every day is a new day, a new week, a new shot.
Okay, they're all the same. Change the status quo. If you want things to be different, you got to act different. As he said, people talking about overtraining. Well, you have to train before you can overtrain. You have to have discipline before you're over-disciplined. So, our master plan. Get out of Van Patten as quickly as Salvation Army will take the units. You've known this now for over a week. Number one. Number two is to go back to a model where education is the center, not employment. We tried the employment route. We got good at employment. The problem is people got used to the status quo, to their daily routine of their job, and they dropped the school part. They stopped learning. They stopped yearning for more. So, what say you, Charlene? I think Charlene is out there trying to change the status quo. She's sending letters to the mayor. She's pursuing her dream. You got to have a dream before you can pursue a dream. But you don't need to have a dream to have discipline. To get out there every day. A good example of that would be the movie The Natural. Roy Hobbs, Robert Redford. Great, talented, the best, most talented young baseball player ever. Career gets cut short because of a tragedy. 20 years later, he's an old man. He comes back as not a pitcher, but as a hitter. And the coach won't let him play because he's an old man. And then through a series of events, they have to put him in the game. And all of a sudden, everything changes. The point, though, is for Roy Hobbs, the talented guy, the best player on the team, he's forced to sit on the bench. He doesn't give up. He doesn't accept the status quo of, I'm never going to get to play. He's always ready. So when he gets his one opportunity, he succeeds. Doesn't have the excuse of, I wasn't prepared, man, because you haven't been having me do things. I've been sitting around for 10 months, 6 months. I haven't been able to swing the bat. What do you expect me to do my first time at the plate? So regardless of whether you have a dream, you should have discipline, good work habits, get up early. All of these videos consistently. Get rid of your alarm clock. Go to bed at night looking forward to getting up. As soon as you wake up, get up, start your routine, make your bed, clean your room, do your stuff. Probably nobody notices the background in here, but my bed is always made. My room is always clean. It's the thing I do first in the morning. And then I make my coffee, thanks to Jeannie and Carl. So we're at 11:05. Last night, the incarceration thing was very interesting. Learned a lot. The room was packed with Hope for Prisoners people. So if you didn't know Hope for Prisoners, you would think that they owned the world. So one thing to learn is if you're going to do an event, if you're part of an event, a panel, make sure you tell all of your people, go to this thing tonight. Yeah, go to this thing. Let's have a good showing. So when they pass the microphone around and you have a question, you don't really ask questions, you make statements. I'm part of the Hope for Prisoners program. Rah, rah. That was impressive. The thing that was lacking was nobody is doing anything we aren't doing. I'm talking about nationally. I'm not talking about locally. I'm talking about there was a couple people. One guy was on the phone from the back east, another guy's from Indiana, captain from Department of Public Services was there on the panel. And that was the second person I went to see. And she was very gracious. I'm going to send her an email today to follow up because we're trying to change the status quo. We're not trying to work within the status quo because nothing happens other than people get to sit around the campfire singing Kumbaya, patting themselves on the back, that we're really out there to make this thing better, but they're not making it better. And, fortunately, we're not back in Nazi Germany because these people would have been lined up and shot trying to defend the poor performance that they have. They don't have statistics of whatever. And, Hope for Prisoners' big statistic was last year we helped 496 people. We help 496 people a month that are in prison. We help probably double that per month in prison. We helped get probably 300 people out of prison in the last 12 months, and that's after PNP and NDOC tried to stop us. Before that, when Jeff got here and Anna got here, it was 10 people per week, every week. And then they tried to stop us because we went a little bit too far changing the status quo with AB 236. So we are on the side of changing the status quo, destroying the dominant paradigm. And when you do that, there's a price to pay, which is all of the people who are part of the status quo are going to attack you. I think there's a better life, a richer, more meaningful life, not easier, better life if you decide you're going to change the status quo. And what company is famous for that? Who is the leader of that movement? Steve Jobs. Always about changing the status quo, and other people followed. Nolan wasn't really about changing the status quo. Nolan is about a new way. He didn't care about the status quo. What Nolan cared about is what's a better way to do something? What's a better game? What's better family entertainment? What's better education? We don't have the ability to think like that. Our combined IQ isn't high enough I'm talking about the people at novum-u, is not high enough to think that way. What we can do, though, is we can say, how do we change the status quo? And that comes down to the level of everyone. And in your job, in your career, the question is, are you going to be part of the status quo, or are you out there to change the status quo? Your choice. I'm not making a value judgment about which is better. For our program, trying to reduce recidivism, you have to change the status quo. There's 1,000 people out there trying to work within the status quo to reduce recidivism. And guess what? It's not working. No one is showing that they can reduce recidivism in any meaningful way. The amount of money Hope for Prisoners gets and spends every year, divided by the number of people who actually were helped, not the people who didn't need the help and got help, the people who would have recidivated without the help, the amount of money they spend, it's not sustainable. We believe our program is if the people work the program. Anyway, we're 16 into it, and boom, what does that mean, Shireen? What does that mean, Anna? What does that mean, Bo? Correct. What? Right. Yesterday was the only easy day. Go out there, make something happen. If it's within the status quo, make something happen within the status quo. If you want to change the status quo, make something happen regarding changing the status quo. And that is it for today. And cut.